Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for joining our session. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of your Wednesday evening to spend it here with us in the spirit of community, mentorship, and learning. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Elio Kamei. I am a Director of Customer Success at Salesforce and a Military Trailblazers. Each week, we invite a co-host or co-hosts to take part in our conversation so that we can leverage their experience, expertise, and unique perspectives. The focus for tonight's session is twofold. We'll be exploring how to leverage the Trailblazer community to advance your career goals. And secondly, tips and best practices for reaching Rangers. So if you ever wonder how you can be more active in our professional community while crushing your learning goals, this is the session for yourself. I'm going to introduce you to our co-host for tonight's session, Megan Petersen. Megan has been with Salesforce for nearly 15 years. Wow, that's awesome. Across several marketing and customer success roles, and is currently the Director of Trailblazer Engagement at Salesforce. She is also the host for and creative mastermind behind Trailhead News. And she's an expert when it comes to leveraging Trailhead to advance your career. It's great to have you co-hosting office hours with us, Megan. Welcome. Appreciate it if you don't mind sharing a little bit about yourself to the group.
Yeah, sure. So it's not Wednesday afternoon though for me. It's bright and early Thursday morning. It's 7 a.m. I haven't spoken a lot today, so my voice will get better throughout the the session, I promise. Yeah, so I've been here at Salesforce for it's my 15th year. That's true. You can see some of my surfboards behind me here. Obviously, I started when I was 12-ish, let's say. Yep. I've been here 15 years. I'll give you a little bit of background as to my career journey, because I guess all of you are on your career journey, and it was an interesting one for me. So just before I joined Salesforce, I was working for an engineering company. I was actually over in the US, actually. I am a dual citizen, so there you go. I'm 50% US and 50% Australian. So I was living and working over there, and I knew I was going to be coming back to Australia. So I took a job being kind of an executive assistant type role at a company. And they came to me one day, as many people in the ecosystem have happened, and said, we've got this thing called Salesforce. Can you tell us, should we keep it? Should we throw it out? Should we get something new? Like, can you figure out if it's a good tool or not? So that was kind of my crash course into Salesforce and learning that. And so we actually kept it and re-implemented that with a partner. And then, like I said, I was moving back to Australia, which is where I was born and raised. If anyone's been to Australia, I'm in Sydney. But I was born in Newcastle and have lived in Canberra and Melbourne as well. And when I came back to Sydney, I had actually interviewed for a job at Salesforce before. So I was actually in America, living in San Diego at the time, actually, and interviewing over the phone with everyone back here. And it was very early days of Salesforce. I think we had 3/4 of a level here in the Sydney office, and not even a full level of an office building yet. And here we are about to open our own tower here in Sydney. And I was going to be a customer success manager, actually. So like my co-host here today, working with our customer success organization. And it was making our customers successful with Salesforce. So I'd learned a bit about Salesforce. I was getting to talk to our customers about Salesforce and just making sure they got the most out of it. About 4 years later, had my first child, Bryce. And when I came back from maternity leave, I was kind of like, I don't know, am I going to want to work? Am I going to want to be a mum? I don't know. After being able to tell time by what children's programming was on television, I realized I needed to come back to work for adult brain time just a little bit. So I came back, but talked to my managers at the time, because I had started having like the same conversations with everybody and kind of going, well, I'm having this meeting and then I'm having the exact same meeting. Like, can I just save myself time and do it once for everyone? Can they just come to me? So this idea about running kind of webinars or scaled programs, and it would give me a bit more flexibility in my job. So they said, sure, you can go and try that out. And that was early days with the Trailblazer community, actually. So I was leveraging Trailblazer Community online, Trailblazer Community in person, and kind of just trying to help people with the basics around Salesforce. Kind of, if any of you have done fundamentals or any of those kind of online programs, this was kind of like the birth of that back in the day. So you sat with me for like 3 or 4 weeks while I went through that. And then about 2 years later, I had my daughter. And when I came back from that whole program had been very successful. So now I was kind of leading a little team of people that were helping me do that. So that was fantastic. And believe it or not, I wasn't always a public speaker. If anyone knows me at all, I sing for all hands calls. I am not a shy person, or maybe a confident person. I don't know. I just like to have fun, and I don't really mind if people don't like it. So, because I'm having fun. So, but I didn't always, do public speaking. And I got this opportunity to do the first admin keynote here in Australia, which was pretty exciting. So if you've seen things like Dreamforce that we do over in the US, we have, global versions of those kind of events that go around the world. We were doing that in Sydney, and they wanted to do the admin keynote. So if you've heard of or seen Gillian Bruce, she was then Gillian Medill back in the day, and she came down to Australia, and we did the first admin keynote. And one of the slides in that was about Trailhead, and I hadn't heard of it yet. It was 9 months old at Salesforce at the time, and I was in CSG, like I said, our customer success organization. We had our own kind of premier training org. And I started looking at Trailhead, and I was like, this is amazing. And I like it. And I'm laughing. And who is the team that did this? They're my people. I need to be on that team. So after 9 years in CSG, I made it my mission to get on Team Trailhead. So Sarah Franklin, who's now the CMO of Salesforce, at the time was running admin marketing. So I met Sarah because I started doing admin keynotes down here in Australia. And at the time, Adam Seligman was running Trailhead, and he came down to Australia to do one of our events, and he was going to open the admin keynote. And I was like, right, I'm going to tell him that he needs to hire me. It's going to be great. So he came down. And I gave him like a little tour of the event. And I was like, by the way, you really should hire me to look after Trailhead here in the region. And he was like, oh, should I now? Well, why don't you put a business plan together and convince me? And I was like, okay. And so I made this cute little PowerPoint presentation, which was a badge on like why you should hire Megan. And it had little modules with it. And you had little quizzes at the end and funny answers and all that. And that was kind of where it all started. Shortly after, Adam left Trailhead and left the company, and who took over but Sarah, my good friend Sarah. So I was like, Sarah, it's meant to be, hire me. She's like, yeah, there's just a headcount thing that you need to like join a team, and we've got this thing called My Trailhead, and that's where my headcount's going. And I was like, but this is my destiny, and I need you to help me. I need to make the team. So I went to a Dreamforce pleading Sarah. She's like, it's a headcount thing. I would hire you if I could. I was like, okay. So I came back to Australia. I was like, how do you get headcount? So I was like, I'm just going to go to the person that's running the region and say that they need to give headcount because it's good for the region. I don't know. I say this story back now, and I don't quite know how I went about doing this. Still, it feels like I'm telling a story about a fictional Megan, but it did happen. So I went to the person running the APAC region at the time, and I got half an hour on his calendar, and it was so funny because he had all these reporting, people that I knew. And so I went to them all before the meeting. I was like, how would you approach it? And I got like a realm of feedback from like, I'll sit in the room with you. This is fantastic. I'll support you, down to here's some other companies you can go work at because you're wasting his time. Like very broad spectrum of feedback. And I was like, okay, I take all your feedback on board. I have half an hour of time with this person. I'm going to take my half an hour despite all your feedback. And I was like, they were like, don't wear a hoodie. Don't talk about the characters and the cute stuff. He's not down with that. And I was like, okay, fine. So I came with a business plan and I walked into his office and he was like, "Oh, are we talking?" And I was like, "Yes, it's just my destiny meeting, sir." And sat down, and within 5 minutes of sitting down with him, he was like, "Oh, I was in New Zealand and they had bears. How do I get a bear?" And I was like, "They told me not to talk to you about the bears." But anyway, it was a good meeting. He, I think, had just come out of somewhere. Trailhead was very hot in the company at the time. And he's like, "Look, we're going to make this happen." So it still took a little bit, I think 3 to 6 months after that meeting. But I was actually about to get up on stage and I was co-hosting our kickoffs. I think I was sitting in Singapore next to him. And he turned to me and he's like, "Oh, by the way, I got your head count." And I was like 2 minutes from hopping up on stage. I wish I could see a video of my face as I was on stage. My energy must have been like, but I was very excited. So
Wow.
very long story short, I got to join Team Trailhead about 6-7 years ago now. And it's been an amazing team to be a part of. I've worked closely with the Trailblazer community throughout my whole career. I think Trailhead is just an amazing platform that I love talking to people about. I love that we've made it free and accessible for everyone to learn and get skills and get their foot in the door. And connecting with the community is just so powerful. So I'm having a wonderful time still being over here. We've kind of elevated even more. We're now Trailblazers. Trailblazer engagement is my title. So I work with our Trailblazers and engage them any way I can to become part of our ecosystem. So, and then we're out of time, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Have I taken
no,
the
we're
hour?
not.
Yeah.
No, we're not out of time. Thank you for that, Megan. It's awesome again to hear your story and to share it with the group. So I'm going to go through a couple of things that we normally do in our sessions,
Please.
and then I have a set of questions for you, and we'll open up the floor for people to ask questions. I'm sure there are a lot of folks that are here, like myself. I'm a long time learner. I'm in Trailhead, so I'd love to hear your tips and tricks. So again, for those of you that are joining for the first time, we like to briefly explain the purpose of these office hours. So again, these office hours are an informal get-together for gathering military trailblazers and our allies to explore non-technical Salesforce career branding related topics to help you achieve your professional development and career related goals. As you heard from Megan, our goal here is to have an opportunity for collaborative mentorship. Everyone on the call is encouraged to step up and help answer any questions from your perspective, which will provide additional diversity of experience to the answers given. Please keep an eye out on the chat window during tonight's session. We will try to post some informative links there as well. And if you want to share your LinkedIn profile, if you want to learn from other people or just learn how to network or find out about employment opportunities, we'll make sure to not only have the chat window available for that, but this session is being recorded and we'll post it on our YouTube channel. So with that said, finally, because the session is being recorded, if you'd like to share an attribution-free comment or if you have a question, please let us know. We have a great editor and we can edit you out if you don't want to be part of that recording. So if you want to let us know to keep that off the record. Again, we want to establish a safe environment, yes, and have a collaborative session. With that said in mind, let me just jump over to a few questions I have for Megan here. So Megan, there's a couple of topics that I want to cover with you. The first one's on upskilling, right? The Salesforce platform is huge and Trailhead is amazing, right? Sometimes though, it can be overwhelming. I've actually experienced this myself. What tips can you offer for setting up a learning strategy to upskill, given the wide variety of badges and content available?
Yeah, so it was a lot easier, like I said, when I got first learned of Trailhead, 9 months into its journey. I think when Trailhead launched, it was 3 trails and like 8 badges. So, you could knock those out in a week, So it's definitely exponentially grown since then, which is good. It's fantastic. We get new content on Trailhead every week. And I think the other little side note there on Trailhead is that the team does an amazing job of keeping all that content, up to date. It's always the most relevant, recent, updated content. So if we change the name of a product, you'll see that reflected pretty quickly on the Trailhead platform. So I'm going to answer your question kind of in the form of a little story. So we talked about that person that gave me headcount, right? So after that happened, I became kind of a little bit of a Trailhead guide, if you would, to him. So he was like, look, talking about being a ranger, like, can you just tell me what I need to do? So this is before trail mixes existed on Trailhead. So I was actually constructing these emails for him and sending him like calculated lists of badges to do every week that I thought, like, it was like 7 badges a week. I was like, we've got a plan. We're going to do 7 badges a week, and it's going to take X number of weeks because I know you're busy and you can fit this in. And I think he left the business before he became a ranger, which is the saddest part of the story. But out of that, I started getting this structured program of like learning that you should do as you enter. And especially if you have absolutely no idea where you want to go with your career, right? So back in the day, it used to be admin and developer were the roles that you could filter by on Trailhead. We have a lot more roles that you can filter by and a lot more career paths these days as well. So I actually, once trail mixes became a thing, created something called the Road to Ranger trail mixes. There's 3 trail mixes, and they actually go through the most basic content in a logical kind of way that gets you up to ranger rank. But especially if you're not really like, I am destined. I love that Jade has said she's going to make stickers. Yes, I need that sticker. It is my destiny. I'm destined to be, a developer. So you might, if you definitely know your career path already, then double down on that and really look at your filters, look at beginner content for developers, look at your trails, and start using your filters on Trailhead. So hopefully you all know there's filters on Trailhead. When you do a global search at the top, you can then filter that content down by your role, your level, a product, most points, whatever you want to filter on. But this kind of was broken down into these 3 trail mixes, which was get to know Salesforce, because if you're joining the ecosystem, it's important to understand the company that you're aligning to and make sure that that's a good fit for you and your values, and it's a place that you want to settle into for a little while. The second one was getting to know our product suite, which is, big. It keeps getting bigger. But that's why I think, you need to really kind of sit down and just go, okay, what do I want to do? What speaks to me? And get a little bit hands-on. And I found it fun, like when you can open up those playgrounds and you can kind of learn by doing. Like that, it feels very big accomplishment to me, and the confetti comes down and you've built the field, and I loved getting hands-on. So, doing all that admin kind of content really spoke to me. And then the third one was about getting hands-on. So I think it is the secret sauce of Trailhead. Another little fact for you all is that when Trailhead was first created, it was only hands-on challenges. So there's a whole backstory, and I don't want to take away from question time, as to how Trailhead was created. Actually, there is a video out there of it. I can find a link for you all with the Trailhead story that I did on Trailblazer News. Yay! But there's a whole backstory as to that. But we ended up having to make multiple choice quizzes as the content developed, because when you're doing kind of wellness content, there's just certain things that you don't need to get hands-on to learn. So as our content became more diverse, we had to kind of change up how it was structured. So again, I have really long answers to all your questions, but hopefully all very informative as I speak. But if you don't know your career path, the Road to Ranger trail mixes are a really good kind of introduction to kind of look at things in a broad way, and definitely look at those career path pages that kind of break down those day in the life and the skills that you need. And that's got links to kind of introductory learning as well, certification paths that you would follow, all that kind of stuff as well. But if you have that career path kind of carved out, then that gives you something to really kind of start focusing on. I think it is still important to do a bit of well-roundedness. Like if you want to go developer, I think you still need to understand the admin skills that underpin that, what you can still do declaratively or clickable in the Salesforce platform versus what you would code, because I think that makes you a better, well-rounded, careered individual the more you know, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I personally love the hands-on. I learned so much from it in the playground. But pivoting a little bit to upskilling advice from from somebody who might be transitioning or considering transitioning to the Salesforce ecosystem, but is not really interested in a non-technical role. What kind of guidance or advice you can give those folks
They're not interested in a non-technical role. There was a lot of
that
negatives
are
there. Where
sorry
did we
that are
land with the non-negs?
yeah, sorry, that are interested in a non-technical role.
Interested in a non-technical role. So like maybe wanting to do some marketing or sales or
Business analyst.
business analyst. Yeah. So there is definitely still learning that you can do on Trailhead around all those roles. There's sales pathways, there's marketing pathways, there's business analyst pathways. I think we even have a new business analyst cert, and there's a business specialist, I think it's called, certification, which is a great introductory certification. Some of these are actually focused at end users, not like because you want to run the system. So don't think that if you want to, take that path to sit a certification that you have to be the person in the driver's seat. Some of the training is also for if you're an end user of the product as well. You definitely want to connect with the community. The community is the first people that I go to if someone's like, what jobs are going, what is happening, who can I talk to? Salesforce is great. We have some great people that can give you expert advice, but the community is an amazing, huge resource. You don't even have to necessarily connect with someone locally. You might find someone across the world that is giving you some great advice. So we've got, Steve Moe that's over in New York, Boston, I think. I can't do a Boston accent. Don't try that on a call. But he's very good at formulas. So, someone asks a formula question on the community and Steve Moe often chimes in with helping people out. We've got, an amazing group of trailblazers around the world that are so willing to help others on their journey. And kind of, look at Dave's setting up this call just to be able to connect everyone on this call to resources and information. It's an amazing community. I remember back in the day going to the meetings in person and kind of going, but why do they do it? Why are you running a meeting when we don't pay you? Why are you doing it? They were always like, because we love it and we love connecting people. And I was like, that's amazing. So just such good people that want to help you succeed. And that's a really nice environment to surround yourself with. So connect with the community, try and find people that are doing what you're doing, ask them about how they got there, what experience they needed. There's often people that talk about going and doing stuff at a not-for-profit as well to get learning. I don't give that advice because I think not-for-profit instances need the best of people, experts that have a lot of training. But if there's any way that you can figure out an internship where you can kind of shadow someone in that role, that would be absolutely phenomenal experience. There's also Trailblazer Connect that you can find through the Trailhead platform where you can connect with a mentor. They'll pair you up with someone in your time zone. That's another great way to, connect to all the resources that can help you get where you want to get in your career path as well. So hopefully that answered or inspired or gave someone somewhere to go if that's what their journey is. But kind of, go back to my career story. I just decided what I wanted to do, and then I was going to make it happen no matter what. So if that's what you want to do, then you just have to figure, head count's my hurdle. Okay, how do we get head count? Let's go do that. So
Awesome.
If you want to do something, just find that way. Connect with the people that need to help you make it happen.
Fantastic. And a quick follow-up, and you're making this interview very, very easy for me as you're flowing from all of these great data points that I think are extremely valuable, right? The community, the tools. One thing that I wanted to ask you, one of the things that we talk in the community, and I also share with some of our folks in the community, are the community groups, right? The Trailblazer-led groups. How would somebody go if they didn't have a group in their city
Yeah.
How would they establish that? Could you walk us through some ideas that you might share with the team, or tips about how to stand up a community group?
Yep. Is it fair to say that everyone on this call is majority US based? Is that fair?
I believe so.
Nods.
Yes.
Yeah. So the good thing about being in the US is that I really would struggle to not have something really close by to every one of you. Even in San Francisco, I don't even know how many would be based around. Like, you've probably got Oakland, San Francisco, Pleasanton. Like, you've probably got about 15. I did live in San Francisco, so I know some places there. So there should be something in your vicinity, 100,000% in your state. So find that kind of nearest circle and definitely just tap in. And the good thing, well, that may be one of the only good things about the COVID environment right now, is that a lot of the groups are still doing things virtually, or allowing people to attend virtually where they always were in person. So I think it's, I've got people, when I go to one, I'll join the Wellington one over in New Zealand, and there's people from the US joining that. So you can kind of take a bit of a global journey, even if you don't want to connect with your local group and you still want to do it virtually, then you can really just travel around the world. Still people coming. So that's my advice. Definitely just it is nice to be with people in your time zone and close by, so that, if the opportunity arises to actually sit down and have a coffee with them or meet with them in person, that you can, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical in-person thing. So, reach out to anyone that you think, again, aligns with what it is that you want to be doing, or someone that you see in the community that you think is doing great work, and you just want to speak to them, pick their brain about. You just set up a 30-minute virtual coffee. Just say, oh my gosh, you seem to be doing amazing things. Would you have any time to sit and talk with me? Simple as that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that and that as well. So let me open it up to Iris.
I think Steve was
Yeah, Iris.
first, actually. So Steve, if you want.
Oh,
yeah, Steve, you can go first.
Well, thank you, Iris. I was just going to say earlier, when we were talking about Trailhead and how important it is, I think, to Salesforce, I only found out about the program about a year and a half ago, and jumped in and actually came to it through military Trailhead Vet Force.
Yep.
And first of all, let me say thank you to making it free.
Yeah.
Because I needed to reorient my career. And I got laid off right at the beginning of COVID. And so when I got pointed in this direction and had the opportunity to dive in headfirst and, do all these modules, head towards my certification, it was a huge benefit. And it was a huge step up for me. And the fact that you gamify the whole thing is awesome. And so I just wanted to say thank you for all that Salesforce does in that regard, because I think it's a huge asset to the company.
I will pass it on to Mark, who was the person that made sure that Trailhead was free, and then Sarah as well. And then if you don't follow Chris Duarte, she's actually on a sabbatical right now, but she is head of content for Trailhead. So she has a lot to do with the voice and tone and the gamification and putting all that care into making learning fun for everybody. So those are the people that I think you should 100% be thanking. And then there's so many people underneath all of those people that make it come to be.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Let me turn it over to Iris.
Thanks so much, Elio. And thank you so much for being here again, Megan. It's lovely to see you again. It's like, I feel like I've come up 360 degrees from the first time you were here in September, just because I was studying for my admin certification, and I love Trailhead, but it was kind of like, angry at it.
It can be sometimes, yes.
But it's awesome, and as I was saying before, it's a little addictive. But my question is, how do you do those questions again? Like, you do it and then it passes you and you have to move on, and then sometimes you want to go back and I forgot how that question went. How do you do that again?
Now you could be, now they've changed this recently. So I think you can still say, like, show me the underlying question. So you can still, like, even though it shows that you've done it, I think you can still go back and reread what it asked you, but you can't redo it, especially if it's like a multiple choice quiz. Once you've done it, you've done it. So that 100 points, 50 points, 25 points for getting it right, wrong can be very frustrating sometimes. Some are trickier than others. That's an moment where I was like, oh, come on, that was close enough. So yes, that you can definitely go back and read the questions, and then hands-on challenges, again, you can't retest or do the points again, but you can definitely go and run the activity again. So I believe there's, like, from my memory, when I click on one that I've done, there's a little link saying show me what's underneath, and then you can still see it. If that fails, I use another browser and you can see all the content, and just you can have another kind of login if you really need to see it in a different way or try it a different way. But that can open up a whole, like, I mean, I don't have a login in another, I just kind of look at the content in another browser. I highly recommend you have all things that associate you as a human person, like social, your Salesforce logins, your emails, all tied to your Trailhead account, because then that just means it can go with you wherever you go in your career, and it's not tied to like a work email or whatever. And we see you as one person, so you're never going to lose that account as you go through. But I believe you can relook at it. Otherwise, open it in another browser, and then you can at least see it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Iris. Megan, we have So and Dip is next. And you're on mute if you want to click the, there you go.
So just wanted to extend my thank you to this community. I started attending military office hours. I remember feeling like a kindergartner, feeling lost and scared to transition into the career while having a newborn in my lap. So today I landed a full-time position with Slalom as associate consultant. Thanks to my mentors, Ilio, I have spoken to him a few times, and Iris as well. And I have Jade online. I hope I'm not missing anybody, but thank you to each and everyone for building this community. And yes, having it free for a person like me. And as Steve said, it has changed life. It has impacted us. And I'm hitting a 6-figure job, which I would have not imagined at all. So I will stop here before I get emotional. Thank you.
Get emotional. It is emotional. That's fantastic. Congratulations. What an amazing story.
Thank you.
And a
Fantastic.
great example of someone that's connected with all these people that have helped you get to where you are right now in this very moment. How exciting. Celebrate tonight.
Definitely. Fantastic news there. And thanks for sharing. And yeah, Megan, I feel the same way. Trailhead has helped me in my career, in ways that I never thought were possible. And when I connect with folks in the, in the community, it's fun to just pull up my Trailhead and show them, here's, the trail that helped me get over that hump, or, with the playground and the hands-on. It's just an amazing tool. Brent Downs has a question on chat. He asked, what is your favorite Trailhead module?
Oh,
if you have one.
What is my favorite? So, you know what? I don't think it exists anymore. I think they had to retire it. But back in the day, they used to do a lot of these like April Fool's things and these kind of more joke badges that would pop up. And if anyone was still around back then, there was this badge called Catter, which was based around chatter. And it was a cat communication system. And so you'd meow at someone or you'd hiss at them instead of liking. And it was just, it was Chris Duarte's brilliant writing. So it still was actually teaching you about chatter, but they instead of human communication, it was feline communication. And that's I just love stuff like that so much. But again, I love hands-on badges as well. I just love opening up the playground, especially, in my CSM days, I was in the product a lot more. And so in my Trailhead Trailblazer role, I'm probably less hands-on in the product than I used to be. So I love getting onto Trailhead and retesting, is it still the same? Is my knowledge still there? Are my skills still sharp? And it feels, like less imposter syndrome creeps in if I can get in there and do a hands-on module and actually know the things. So definitely.
Awesome.
But yes, I love all those kind of fun joking ones. There's so many Easter eggs. There's a goldfish with a gold tooth as one of the badge images. There's a recipe for salmon on Trailhead. I think you can find Chris, like Duarte is written as like a bullet point list, like do the things, and umbrellas, and anyway, there's little Easter eggs all through Trailhead, and when you find them, they always make me laugh.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's awesome. Let me turn it over to Carrie.
Hi, Megan. Okay, so the Trailblazer community altogether, I am assuming has shifted over the years. I mean, I'm even seeing opportunities out there for children to learn Salesforce, and even, high schoolers. Like, I know of a family where the kids and the parents all are certified. I'm like, that's awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about your experience and how, so I have two questions on here, on how that has shifted and how it's shifted your guys' strategy forward. And then the second one is, I still don't have a Trailblazer hoodie, and that is my destiny. And so besides the Ranger status, I've got the Ranger status, but I didn't do it by way of trail. So if you have any suggestions besides one, because I want to earn one. So
okay, good questions. So the Trailblazer community, like I said, back 15 years ago, it was still rocking and rolling. And what's really interesting is a lot of the people that were still running groups and part of groups are still the same people, like still leading or part of the ecosystem. I remember one of the people we got to bring in as a co-leader actually ended up working at Salesforce. She still works here. So it's great when, like, I hated when I worked at jobs before and software jobs where you're selling something, you're not using the product. And I kept turning, like I was in marketing at that job for a competitor. You can deduct. So, but like I kept asking the question, like, but why aren't we using it? So it's really hard for me, I've got very strong values. Why aren't we using the product that we're selling? Well, it's actually too complicated to use. So, okay. But I should tell everyone this though. Yes. Okay. So what I love about Salesforce and the community is that I feel like it's really real. It's a product that we use every day. It has become a huge product, right? We've had a lot of acquisitions. It used to be 2 clouds back in the day, sales and service. And now there's a lot more. But you can specialize in a cloud. You can still fundamentally understand the platform. And like, that's what I said before, when you're learning, it's good to understand some of those fundamentals that go across. Is in my destiny hoodie. I love it. I'm getting strong Back to the Future vibes. So that's, it's, to be honest, the community, as much as it's changed, has changed not at all. So it probably was just a smaller group of people that used to sit around a table, and now we need to find rooms for a lot more people at a time. I love when I can go, when I used to travel for work and I'd go somewhere, I'd try and go to the local user group for any area that I would go to, because it's so nice to be able to walk into a room and you're speaking the same language, right? You've got a common thread that you can go and talk to people about, and you're making instant friends. I find that absolutely fascinating and wonderful all at once. So it's definitely gotten a lot bigger. So the team that looks after our community is huge, and they work tirelessly all the time. And, you have to put kind of more ropes around certain things the bigger that something gets, unfortunately. So, some of the things that might have been perks back in the day kind of get reeled back, because when you've got 10 people doing it versus 1,000 people doing it, it kind of changes a lot of different things. So, but the fundamental values and excitement and these people that just want to give back. That part hasn't changed in the 15 years that I've been around at all, but the amount of information out there definitely has, and the amount of people you can connect with very easily. So I have a funny side story. So it's being recorded, but it's okay. They won't watch. So I was in an internal meeting with our marketing team, and, they were kind of coming out like, this community, there's people out there that do a lot with Salesforce, right? And I was like, yeah. This is like 8 years into Salesforce at this point. And they're like, we should create this like portal where they can connect with one another and ask questions. And I'm kind of sitting at the table looking around like, and everyone's like, yeah, they're writing. And I was like, well, it sounds like the Trailblazer community. They're like, oh, what's that? I was like, oh, okay. So that happened. So yeah, my team this year, and we grow, we hire a lot of people, and it's one of those things you can't just say something once and think that you've told everybody. You got to say it and say it and say it. So my team's doing a lot of work this year, talking internally about the Trailblazer community and making sure that everyone's aware of it and connecting their customers, because the more people we have on there, the more value, right? And you had a second question about a hoodie. So in short, you can buy them. You can. So there's a Salesforce store and a Trailhead store. But, I always say if you are part of an account and you're doing good things, that you should definitely tap your account executive on the shoulder, and, they may have a corporate card that could buy hoodies. Turn it off. You didn't hear me say it, okay? I'm all for budget, so.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Carrie, for that. Those two questions. We have some other folks.
Events, you can usually get hoodies at events as well. So you do like quests at events, or you go to Dreamforce, you do the quests, and often you can get hoodies and stuff that way. Actually, some of the community user group meetups also get given swag, and I think often they'll use their budget to like buy hoodies as prizes and stuff like that. So there are ways.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a side story to that, Carrie. I went to Dreamforce, and a friend of mine was given access to a couple of hoodies, and she thought of me and grabbed one, but it was the wrong size, and I was devastated, right? So I just turned away and continue on my Trailhead journey. Little did I know that once I hit Ranger, the same hoodie showed up with the right size, but my Trailhead hoodie has the Ranger badge on, which I take a lot of pride in having that Ranger. So there are ways to get the jersey. Awesome story. And we have a lot of people line up, and I'm sorry, I'm going to jump over Megan, if that's okay with you, to the other folks that have been patiently waiting. Carlos, would you mind asking your question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah. First off, I had to buy my hoodie. That's what I ended up doing. I had no luck with the quest, but just wanted to share. I'm 1 month in as an admin, and an interesting thing about me in my interview is my manager now was very passionate about Trailhead. So in my resume, I referenced my super badges, and she knew exactly what was tested in those areas of the super badges. So I was able to leverage it in my interview. And I do remember we had an office hour session about 2 to 3 months ago, and it was being questioned. So I guess now I'm a part of the statistic to say that it is, in fact, they hold value. And I was actually able to leverage it in my interview. So just wanted to share that.
Congratulations. Yes, 100%. I've got that on my resume too. I don't care if I'm going for a job at a bakery. They need to know that I have super badges because they're hard. That's a fantastic story. And I actually was going to say super badges after I said hands-on challenges for my favorite badge. I actually do love super badges because they kind of give you, they're hard. You got to put aside a day, because I don't like starting them and then coming back. You can't, then you lose context and all that. So you got to really carve out the time for it. But what a sense of accomplishment, right? They're tricky. There's always some kind of curveball in them, so that they are a definite test of your skill, and definitely resume worthy. They fall under the credential tab on Trailhead, 100%. And I'm glad to hear. Now I have a story to say when someone's like, I don't know. I'll be like, well, let me tell you about Carlos.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Carlos. Kathleen, let me turn it over to you.
Yeah, I don't know if this was brought up, but we were promised stars if we have like 200 badges and 3 stars. Do you know when those are coming out?
So yes, this is something that I've been drumming on about internally for about 4 years. So because I run an internal program, which is where that hoodie comes from with the Ranger badge, called the Ranger program. So if you're a Salesforce employee, you do get to buy special swag when you hit certain ranks. But we did bring in the double star, triple star, 4-star, 5-star, and all-star ranks internally here at Salesforce. So for the past, 4 years, I've been pleading with the team to take them externally because Ranger seems, I don't know, after you've hit Ranger and you've hit that accomplishment, you kind of miss then like that, what's the next goal? I want to hit the goal. So yes, luckily at Trailblazer DX this year, they announced that we are finally going to get some new ranks externally. So that's very exciting news. And I do keep asking when. I do think it's going to be in this fiscal year is what I'm hearing. Have we got a forward-looking statement slide up, please? And I heard in the second half of the year. So for our fiscal year starts in February. And so it runs through to the end of January. So somewhere between August and January.
All right, I'll stop refreshing every day.
Oh, it will be a huge announcement, trust me. So yeah, it's I cannot wait for that to go live. It's one of those things, you know, when you break it down, you know, our engineering team worked on my Trailhead for a really long time, being that platform where you can create your custom content. And it's a battle of priorities, right? So you kind of go, that's a nice to have, but you know, we actually put an entire deck together of statistics, survey, feedback, trying to point out that we think this would be an absolutely huge motivator for Trailblazers. So we finally got it.
Awesome. Yay.
Stay tuned. Keep refreshing. It'll come.
Thanks for that. Let me turn it over to Craig Pollock.
Thanks, Elio. Megan, question is, for the people who are, do you have any tips going through all the different modules that you looked at? And I was like, oh, this isn't quite what I thought it would be. And you're kind of surprised, like, huh. And when you're kind of doing the Trailhead, that's surprised you with what the actual answer or challenge solution was.
I'm trying to think of a specific answer, but yes, that has definitely happened. That's why when it's a multiple choice one, because I'm very big on needing to get it right the first time and I don't speed read the answers. And I don't know about you guys, not that anyone would do a Control F find of answers in any of the content, but they're getting very good at, sometimes I'll read the content and I'll be like, I don't remember reading that for the question that it's asking. And so I'll go back and try and find the right section to reread it. But they're getting very, very good at not letting people find it like with a Control F kind of search back anyway. So I love that. But there's definitely been so many moments where I was like, oh, that's not what I thought that was at all. But I think that's fantastic, right? I do like to have learning moments like that because that's what you're there for, at Trailhead to do. So I don't like to know it all. I do like to be challenged and go, oh, well, that's good. It's probably good that I know that's not the answer now, and I'll tell someone the right information. Yeah, I can't think of a specific answer that I've done recently, but I get very frustrated. I think there's even been a point where I have got it wrong down to the 25-point mark, and I've been like, I'm going to have to give feedback to the team that is really not clear. That's not a nicely asked question. That's a tricky question that they're just trying to catch you out. So, and if you want to give feedback as well, in case you don't know, there's a little link on the right-hand side of the page as you're looking at it that says feedback. It says more than feedback, but the word feedback is definitely hyperlinked there on the side. If you ever see a spelling mistake, something you disagree with, something that offends you, anything like that, click that link on the unit itself, and that actually gets triggered to the author, and they actually act on changing it. So I have an example. I wrote a badge around digital events and creating digital content. And I think I made the comment, or the words said something like, you want to have diverse presenters, male and female. And I didn't even think about it. I'd written it, it had gone through editors, and then somebody read the content and went, that doesn't represent everyone. And I was like, 100% does not. That is worded not in an inclusive way. And so I changed the wording in that badge to be a lot more inclusive. And so I welcomed that feedback, and I, don't ever want someone to feel like that content's not for them. So hit that feedback link and share that feedback for the author.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that question. Iris, sorry, you had a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm not sure your team's going to like you very much, because they may get a lot of feedback when everyone gets those 25 points.
That's right. That's right. Bring it on, I say. Crash the system.
Right on. Great comment there, Iris. I know we only have a few minutes left, so Mary, you can bring us home with your final question. Mary Mendoza.
Yeah, sure. Basically, one of the things I've noticed is that that a lot of the modules don't have anything about training people to put descriptions in fields or any of the reports or anything like that. And that can probably be a really useful thing. And I was wondering if you could add that to the modules. That way you train people that they do that from the start. Because otherwise, once they've developed that habit of adding fields, you look at something and it's like, why is that there? Or you've got two fields that have very similar names, but there's no description. And it's really tough to figure out which one to use in a report, or if you're trying to do backups or anything that involves looking at those fields. Plus, if you're going back and doing field cleanup and your page looks like the CVS receipt, and I have one lying around here someplace, they're really long. It's like Meghan Markle's veil. Or so, it's like a veil. It's really long. But yeah, if you want to go clean up your page, you need to know what people intended with it. And if they never got in the habit of it, it's hit and miss.
I completely agree. I feel like there's definitely a module or two out there that does talk to that, because I know I've done it. But it might not be, it might not be consistent across the board. I feel like it's even in those like italicized little, pro tip type lines, like make sure you use your descriptions. But I know that's hot and heavy in admin content. So hopefully everyone here knows about, salesforce.admin.com and all the resources there. 100% they would talk about that being a best practice. But you know what I'm going to say, Mary? If you find a unit that you think that would be helpful to put in, then you hit that feedback button and you tell
I'll start
them.
doing that. I'll start doing that.
But I think that I think it's happened to me before, where I've created an org and you do it quickly because you're on a time crunch and you don't add the description, and then inevitably your reports all the bloody time. I'm like, I know I made this report in the last year and I can't find it and I don't know what I called it, and it's
even if I generally find it best if you're you can't figure out a description, screw it, just put in the module and the section and put that in there and create it for this module, and then that way when you go back and look at it and go, what the heck, why is that there? Oh, that's what it's there. So
great tips.
that way you help yourself.
I heard people you can rename playgrounds in Trailhead, by the way. So I know a lot of people resave their playground names as like the module or the super badge that they're working on so that they remember.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary. So folks, before we close, I just like to thank Megan for co-hosting tonight's session. It's been awesome having you here and getting your perspective on the topics we discussed. With that,
my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You bet. With that, thank you everybody for attending. I hope to see you next week and have an awesome Wednesday night. For you, Megan, it's Thursday. Is it Thursday morning?
The future is bright. It's a sunny day.
Fantastic.
It's going to be a good day tomorrow, everybody.